Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Nooner. I'm Dave LaMont, and we are live from South Florida, where people are talking about the Miami Heat, to say the least. And there's plenty to talk about. You've got an optimistic spin on the Dolphins. As always, Hurricanes fans are counting on their team to go 15-0. You have Florida Gator fans who might actually have a shot at the SEC East now that Georgia doesn't seem to have a starting quarterback with any kind of experience. And Florida State fans have a new coach, and they're feeling pretty good about themselves, too, although they've had a strange offseason. UCF is thinking this could be a great year for them, and USF has a new coach and a new optimism, and they may be halfway decent this year also. So there's all the college football to talk about, and Miami Dolphins. We can't do Florida Panthers, the Miami Marlins. I still want to call them the Florida Marlins. The Miami Marlins are in the playoff hunt at 16-16, thanks to the expanded playoffs. But it's the Heat that's dominating the South Florida talk right now with their 2-0 lead over the Milwaukee Bucks. And hopefully we'll be joined by Tim Reynolds of the Associated Press, who covers the NBA, covers the Heat, is in the bubble in Orlando. Tim hasn't checked in just yet. And he may be on something. You know, the way that the bubble has worked, it's very possible that Tim is working a story. So I'll keep an eye out. I've got a little setup here that I can see where he is in place, and when he's able to make it, if he is able to make it, we'll get to him in just a second, and he just popped in. So give me a couple minutes to ramble, and we'll bring Tim right in. Also this weekend, you're going to have 3 NHL Game 7s, and today is September 4th, and they're running the Kentucky Derby this weekend. And I thought it was freaky to see the Indy 500 a couple of weekends ago. This is even freakier to see the Kentucky Derby in September, because it's usually right around my birthday, give or take a day or two. You always know it's the first Saturday in May, guaranteed. And now this year, this is, I think, now I'm not saying it's bad, and I'm not saying I'm not going to watch it, because I'm sure I'll make time for the most important 2 minutes in sports, but it's just weird, okay? It's just not normal. What is a good, nothing. But that one, out of all of these, even the Masters in November is going to be goofy too. And I have been, later on, we're going to talk to somebody in Augusta about the financial impact on the businesses there, which is going to be devastating to the city of Augusta, Georgia, and the surrounding areas, even into South Carolina, because of there's no, I can say it, spectators. What are they going to do about it? So that's down the road. And the U.S. Open golf, U.S. Open tennis is going on, and that's weird too. But U.S. Open golf, we haven't even had that yet. That's coming. So there's a lot of oddities. One baseball note, Clayton Kershaw, 2,500 strikeouts, third fastest to reach that mark. And what a great tribute by the New York Mets last night to commemorate the passing of the greatest Met of all time, Tom Seaver. Every player, position player, pitcher, didn't matter, had a scuff of dirt on his right kneecap. And if you're wondering why that's a tribute, go find a picture of Tom Seaver pitching, especially in his younger days. And they always say pitching is from the legs. And if there was ever a better example of pitching from the legs than Tom Seaver, I'd like to see it. I don't think it exists. And so that smudge of dirt would happen when he would thrust his front leg forward and his right leg was the back leg, and it would brush against the mound. He got down so deep and depended on those legs. And, of course, he had every pitch in the book. There's also available, I think the Society for American Baseball Research found his scouting card and talked about his ability, his competitiveness. And this was in the mid-1960s, and the guy who signed it was Tommy Lasorda. So, yeah, Tom Seaver, that's one certain age that hits you a little harder than most. But I do want to talk about what's going on with the Heat, and I do want to bring in, if I can hit the right button, add to stream. There he is, everybody. Is your room bugged, Tim? You're in a bubble. Are you bugged? Are you under surveillance right now? Is it safe?
Looks like I'm under surveillance. Oh, God, Bubble Life is not agreeing with me. What is happening?
You look just dandy to me. I have no complaints.
You got a low dandy bar.
I do, actually. All right. So let's talk first off about, before we get to life in the bubble, because this is your second trip, right?
This is quarantine 2.0 that you're seeing right now. This is I did 7 days in July. Then I was here for I was here altogether for like, I think 36 or 37 days. Went home for 2 weeks. Was going to relax. Second week of it was when play stopped and we didn't know if the season was going to resume because of the boycott. Let's just say the rest wasn't the 2 weeks off didn't go as planned, but it never does in our industry.
No,
it never does.
Game 3 tonight.
Mm-hmm.
As I like to joke around, the Bucks lost home court advantage.
Yes, home uniform advantage. I've been calling it throughout.
And I also understand that in order to make it feel like the American Airlines Arena, all of the electronic fans will be 25 minutes late.
That's not funny.
Yeah, I think it's cute.
I think it's you know what's funny? You have to be on like 45 minutes before.
Oh, is that right?
So this is true, by the way. And well, the 45 minutes thing is true too. At least that's my understanding. They actually had Michael Biamonte, friend of mine, friend of ours.
Yeah, PA voice of the team, for those who don't know.
Legend Michael B. For home games, they have some PA guys here. Mike B wasn't one of them. They had him record all of his various things, all of his various little all his various little sounds he makes during a game. The first Heat home game is, back during the seeding round. And in the third quarter, I don't know who they're playing. I don't know what the score is. I've forgotten. It's totally irrelevant by now. But you hear Michael B yell, "Stand up." And make some noise. And I'm like, who are we talking to? Like, why would we choose this bite to have him record in a building with 12 people in it? It just made no sense. But they are trying very hard to replicate that home feel.
It's funny. The first time I watched it on television, I really wasn't sure as a fan how I was going to react. And by about the third or fourth game, I had really gotten used to the experience and the crowd noise. And I'm not into very much artificial additions to sporting events. I found it didn't bother me. I didn't even notice it. It just seemed to make sense. It actually looked and sounded all right to me.
I think we get so used to it from our combined 300 years of sports journalism between the two of us. It's, you just get it. I will say this: it's a little off-putting there. Where's the noise coming from? Like, why can I not hear? I mean, yes, we're socially distanced, but I can't have a conversation with a person sitting 6 feet to my right at the media table because it's so bleeping loud in there. And part of that is to drown out the conversations that go on among players that are, relatively off color. There are, you don't want to hear what the referees are bantering, with the players.
You do want to hear that.
You do want to hear that. I think I have said all along there should have been a second feed. Mm-hmm. There should have been a second feed for all of it. And really, when the Blazers were still here, you could have had just a straight up Carmelo channel. Because for as much as like Gary Payton gets recognized as the best bleep talker of all time, but Melo's in the conversation.
Okay.
So it would have been, I think they could have found some interesting ways to bring in more people into the streaming rating world, but it's unusual. And it somehow is working out. I thought the cutouts in baseball, too, I thought those were really weird. And now I like it.
I'm with you. I think it just takes time to get used to it. That's all. We're just, we know what we're used to. We know what the public is used to. And it's just a matter, since we've been having to adjust on the fly for 6 months, what's the difference?
By the way, can we just address this right now, that when the Canes play the opener Thursday night and there's 13,000 people there, the 27,000 people from Tallahassee who are going to tweet, haha, it looks like a usual Canes game. It's a very original tweet. We're stealing your thunder right now.
Yeah, same thing with the Marlins. You make that joke once. You have to be the first one to do it. Otherwise, it's utterly useless.
It really is. And it's, the Marlins are going to the playoffs. Don't you wish you were there now? I do.
Yeah, so, that's a good point.
Come on, people.
All right, let's back up to the series for a second. Besides scoring more points, what has the Heat done to put Milwaukee in this hole?
Well, they aren't afraid. They're not afraid of Giannis. And that, to me, is – I don't think teams I don't want to say that other teams are, because afraid is definitely the wrong word. But you know what I mean in that, they just have – I've been saying this kind of since the plans for the bubble came out, even before we got here the first time. I've thought that the Heat were made for this. This culture, whether you believe in the word or not, it's a very real thing with the Heat. I mean, they pride themselves on being toughest, best conditioned, hardest working, strongest of body, strongest of mind. Man, that's made for the bubble. I mean, it's hard here, Dave. It really is. It is hard here. It's tough to be. I mean, I'm away from my wife and dog. It's hard for me. Imagine what it's like to be, playing for your season and here for longer. I mean, yes, they get to go to more restaurants in the bubble than we do, the players do. So what? I mean, it's hard for them. And you have seen, cracks in the surface from other guys. Even LeBron openly said, hey, I've thought about it. We all think about it. The one team you haven't heard complaining is the Miami Heat.
That's true.
I haven't heard them complaining at all. And I'm sure they feel these things, yes. But they're keeping them in. Their DNA is, we're here. No, it's not ideal, but we're going to make the best of it. That's what they've been saying from day one. That's why, as we sit here right now, with the Celtics losing last night, they're the only undefeated team left in the playoffs. They didn't play great against Indiana, but did what they had to do. Won the series, never really got into trouble. And they've kind of made Milwaukee react to them in the first two games. And that's going to happen again tonight, by the way, because the Bucks have to change up what they're doing. It won't be like seismic, but they'll play their starters bigger minutes. They'll shorten their rotation. They might put Giannis on Jimmy. Well, you're playing into Miami's hands when you do that, because now you're away from your comfort zone. You're away from what made you the best regular season team in the NBA. Now you're reacting to Miami, and you've got to beat them 4 out of 5 times just to get out of this round. It's not a tried and true formula for success.
No, but you have to change. You can't continue to do what you're going to do. And the other thing about it, you mentioned Jimmy Butler. So he goes and has the big first game. Yet this team can now survive a statistically shaky game from Jimmy Butler because it's not built around one person. Even though he might be the big name in the group, one of the things I like about this team, it's been carefully put together. And for a team that lacks what I would call the superstar that you tune in to see, this is a core group of 7 to 8 people that it can be anybody on any night. And that's what makes them, I think, so difficult. Whereas the Bucks, if Giannis isn't on or somebody doesn't play, back him up, they're screwed.
Well, excuse me. Giannis wasn't on in game 1. No, they lost by double digits. He was pretty good in game 2.
Mm-hmm.
Still lost. And when we say Jimmy, Jimmy didn't have a great game looking at the box score, but he had like 13, 6, 3, and 3. He always stuffs the box score. That word that he stuffs the stat sheet. That's what we say about it. He always, the thing that I have grown to appreciate the most out of Jimmy Butler, who, by the way, fun fact, I don't think he knows my name after 14 months here. The thing that I have grown to appreciate about him is he does always make the right play. And he truly doesn't care. I mean, he's the highest paid player in Heat history. No one's ever made as much money in a season as Jimmy made this year, a record that could be broken next year and the year after that and the year after that, depending on what the salary cap really is going to be.
And what they pay Giannis when they sign him. Although I have a theory about Giannis, and I don't think it's a Heat theory, but well, maybe that's for another day. Who knows? But anyway, he truly doesn't. He's always wanted his own team, Dave, but he doesn't need to be the man every night on that team. Right.
From day one, he has spent time, lots of time, like tons of time, building up Tyler Hero, Bam, Kendrick Nunn. Once he saw what the potential was with Duncan Robinson, he added him to that club. Jimmy Butler was happier after scoring 13 in game 2 and winning than he was after scoring 40 in game 1 and winning. If he has to score 40, he'll try to. If he has to be that guy who takes every shot in the fourth quarter, he'll try to. But what separates Jimmy from other superstars, not saying it's right, not saying it's wrong, Dwayne always wanted to be the guy taking shots at the end. LeBron usually has been the guy who wanted to take shots at the end. Jimmy doesn't want to be that guy. Jimmy would rather, if you're going to guard me with 1.5 people, my 4 against your other 3.5 guys, or we're going to take those chances every time. And my 4 guys, I've built them to win. I've trained them to win. If you're not going to respect my guys and play them 4-on-4, they're going to burn you. And if you play me 1-on-1, choose your poison.
Yeah. The other thing that's come out of this, and I know this probably drives you nuts, it drives me nuts, is the theory that Erik Spoelstra couldn't coach. The only reason he has rings is because he has, the 3 guys. And it always drove me nuts because I think sometimes dealing with those giant egos is just as difficult as dealing with guys like you and me being on the team. Now, if people haven't figured it out how good this guy is by now, then I don't know what he's ever going to have to do.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, there was, Chris Caputo, who's an assistant coach at the University of Miami under Coach Larinaga. He retweeted somebody yesterday pointing out, maybe it's time to give Erik Spoelstra his due. And Chris is like, really? Really? And I didn't pile on, but I've said for years he's a Hall of Famer. Yes, he won 2 championships with the Big Three. Yes, this is the first time since 2016 that they've won a playoff series. I get it. They were better in the Big Three era than they have been since. Shocking. I get it. Bron's been in the league 16 years. 12 years, and this is his 17th, but he's completed 16 seasons. The other 12, not in Miami, 1 championship. The other 4 in Miami, 2 championships.
And 4 finals.
Doesn't that say that Erik Spoelstra did a really good job? And here's the thing about Spo that people just refused to accept. So much got made after they lost the finals in 2011. So much got made about how LeBron had to change his game. And he did. He was a better LeBron those next 3 seasons. He needed that embarrassment on that stage. He needed to choke in an NBA Finals. That's what he did. He choked. No, all credit to Dallas. Dallas outplayed him in that series. Dallas deserved to win that series. But for as much as LeBron changed, so did Erik Spoelstra. Because positionless was kind of a thing back then. Erik Spoelstra mastered it. Erik Spoelstra said, I'm not going to look at my guys as positionless. I'm going to look at units now. I'm going to look at 5-person units. Who can I play this guy with? Okay, we're going to go out and get Ray Allen. Great. Who can I play him with? We're going to go out and get, whoever. Duncan Robinson, who's he? Okay, what can I do with him? He looks at things differently now. He looks at things as a unit, not as a player, not as they fit into a system. He tries to build the system every year around the talent that he has. He doesn't get enough credit for that. And also, it was not a real popular decision internally when Dwayne Wade comes back and Spo's like, you're coming off the bench. It wasn't unanimous,
right,
in that arena.
I know one guy who voted against it.
Yeah. At first, and then even he saw the value of it. Like,
right.
Who has the courage to do that? Like, he's so underrated. And it's so unfair because you were handpicked by Pat Riley. Sure. You're in Riley's organization. Yes. Riley laid out the culture for you. Absolutely. He's not doing anything the way Riles did it as a coach. And Riles is all time. We all know that. But Spo doesn't get credit for being his own man and for evolving every year as a coach. Plus, how many active guys right now have more wins in the playoffs than him? Pop? Maybe?
Yeah, I think it's Pop. Yeah, it have to be Pop. Yeah, but he's also had more time too.
Sure,
right?
Pop's been there twice as long. And I always, whenever somebody changes jobs in the NBA, whenever a coach loses his job, I tweet out, it's like we're up to 261 coaching changes since Greg Popovich took over in San Antonio. Well, the second longest tenured guy, admittedly just by a few weeks over Rick Carlisle, is Spo. There's been 150 coaching changes or so in the league since Erik Spoelstra got the job. That means every team in the league has changed coaches an average of 5 times since Erik Spoelstra got hired. You don't keep your job in this league. It's not – you don't do it. You just don't keep your job in this league that long. I don't see what about him doesn't scream give him credit. And just the fact that people just want to start giving it to him now, it's insane. It really is.
Championship coaches lose their jobs in this league. Ty Lue wins a championship and is currently, although that may be changing in any minute. And the other thing you mentioned, this is one of the things that drives me nuts. And I talk about it with football. Look at the Steelers, how many coaches they've had in your lifetime. You're younger than I am. Chuck Noll was probably the first coach you remember. They've only had two other coaches. In your lifetime, they've had three coaches.
Yeah.
And they're a perennial contender. They won a bunch of Super Bowls. You look at San Antonio. Yeah, they stumbled this year, but they're perennial. Rick Carlisle's not going anywhere. In fact, he is really well set up for the future. They were patient, and that's what Miami did. Something else you said really stood out. Handpicked by Pat Riley. He could have handpicked anybody. Nobody is picking up that phone and going, gee, Pat, can't do it. Won't work for you. Bye. That's not happening.
He entrusted a 38-year-old kid with a bad haircut to take over what he built. I mean, come on. And look at the people who were there. Look at the people he could have chosen from. Look at the people he could have gone out and gotten. I mean, doesn't that alone? I mean, Pat's for as much as he's a master motivator, a brilliant public speaker, one of the best coaches to ever do it in any sport ever, period, he knows talent. And for the Arisons who, I mean, look at the people who, I mean, I've covered that team for 17 years, Dave. This is my 17th season with them. I mean, most of the people there that I deal with on the semi-regular basis have all been there as long as I have covered them. People don't leave that organization. They don't leave that organization because they're well run, they're well compensated, they're well taken care of. The Arisons get it. Pat Riley gets it. Chris Riley gets it. It's just, and you know, and I get accused, like, you know, it's funny when people on Twitter want to say you're a homer, this and that and the other thing. Well, I have friends who work for the organization. I'm happy when they do well. I'm not a fan. I can't be in my job. It's nice to go there when they're winning because my friends are happy. But I mean, I've gone on vacation with Rob Wilson, you know, a PR guy for him. We went on a baseball trip a few years ago. There's just so many good people there, top to bottom. Pat Riley. The point is, the Arisons and the Rileys, they know what they're doing about who they bring into the circle. And once you're in the circle, it's really hard to leave. Kim Stone ran that building so well. Kim Stone, if people don't know her, Kim Stone is one of my all-time favorite people who ever worked for the Heat. She was on the business side. She ran the arena, basically. You know what it took to get her out of Miami, Dave? The Golden State Warriors called her and said, we're building this $1 billion arena. Will you come run it for us? That's what it took to get her out of Miami. People don't leave here for just any job because it's run that well.
Yeah.
And it's because of talent evaluation and the way you develop it. When people talk about their player development, they develop executives too. And Pat developed Spo into this. But then Spo took the ball and ran with it too.
Right, and he's become his own person. He is not an extension of Pat Riley. Maybe a tiny bit. That's impossible to escape that influence. But you're right. The decision.
There's that. There's that side of Riles. Yes.
But he's not going to get to that level, though.
He's not Armani.
No, that's not out. All right, let's back it up. We talked a little bit at the beginning of our conversation. Tim Reynolds from Associated Press is our guest, my guest today, our guest. Like I have a huge staff. This is another visit to the bubble. You mentioned a very long stay in the beginning. Give folks a sense of what a daily existence in the bubble is like.
Okay, so, well, there's two phases of bubble life. There's quarantine, which I'm currently in. I had to quarantine for 7 days, both times coming in. This is day 5. I get out Monday around noon. So we're past the halfway point. But this is where I start to, have a talk with the box that carried the Keurig machine that I brought my Keurig up in. I will have a deep conversation with that later. You can't see it, but my wife, my birthday was Monday. My wife got me toy baseballs, like you give a kid, like the soft baseball.
Yeah, sure.
So I got like a setup here. I brought a golf chipping net, and I've been throwing batting practice, like just to kill time. Which means that sound of a rubber ball hitting a wall, I'm sure it's really exciting to whoever's on opposite sides of me. It's a lot of fun. I downloaded a 7-minute workout app last night. I'm sure people really enjoyed that. When I tried planking and the bed kind of half went flying. I mean, it's just quarantine life is fun, Dave. It's just it's not for everyone. So you get out of quarantine and obviously things get back to normal. Then you can go see basketball. The reason why we quarantine is so we're in what we call group 1. I can go physically to games. I can go be on, the court level. I get to physically be around the players and the coaches. And there's very few of us that get, that got that opportunity. So it's a privilege, and I do look at it that way. The quarantine is the price you have to pay to do it. We have to get tested every day. Mm-hmm. For the media, we can't leave the campus. I mean, nobody can leave the campus, but we're very limited in where we can go. We're sort of at their mercy on meals. Whatever's on the menu that day is pretty much what we get. There are some room service options, but if you've been to Disney, it's not great. Maybe. They try to take care of us, but it's going to be a lot more fun this time because we're in playoffs. The first time, it was 3 weeks of no games. It was 3 weeks of practice. That got really boring. Here, yes, I'm going to be up here for 5 or 6 weeks this time, but it's going to lead to the conference finals and the NBA finals, which I'd go to anyway. Usually, it's the best time of year for basketball, so I'll be here longer this time, but it will go faster than the first time.
When things started to go and Milwaukee took that boycott and then you had a couple of days without games, how close do you think it got to the whole season being ended?
Yeah, it was there. It was there. There's no question. The question the players had to find an answer to is what we're doing, it doesn't matter. Are we still being heard? And think about it from this perspective, Dave. I mean, what went on in Kenosha obviously changed things for players. It was another case of it happened again. And just how much more can we take? And I'm not talking about players as Black players. I'm not talking about just the Black men and women that are in this bubble. It is affecting all of us. One way or another, what is going on in the world is affecting all of us right now. We all have, if there's one thing we can all agree on, it's that. So between that and the pandemic, I mean, how much can we take, right? So what players were talking about for those couple of days we're in this extraordinary environment with an unprecedented setup where Black Lives Matter is painted on the courts that we play on, where we are wearing say her name and say their name and love us and Black Lives Matter and so many other socially urging social change sayings on the backs of the jerseys. This has been going on for a month. Has it gotten stale? That was one thing they talked about. That was one thing that they had.
It's a fair question because
when you see, it's like we were talking about it's no different than what we were talking about with the crowd noise. It sounded different. It was off-putting at first, and then you just get used to it. The cutouts at baseball stadiums. How weird is this? Well, now it's normal.
And to that point, Tim, I think to carry that, I also wondered, and I read it, I forgot who wrote the column, but I wonder if the tensions of the bubble also contributed to some of this other stuff because, we heard about that one Wednesday night meeting that lasted until the early morning and guys were storming out and they were angry and they literally slept on it and came back in seemingly a better frame of mind on Thursday. But I also wonder about the tension that you spoke to about living in this environment contributed to this.
It's these guys, and I say this with respect because I do respect these guys. They work hard. Yes, they're highly paid to play a game. And we can either appreciate them for that or not. You don't have to, but I get what they do for a living. They're paid multi-million-dollar deals every year to play basketball. I understand it. It's a really nice life. Doesn't mean it can't be hard, and it is. I mean, these guys, we all are used to various freedoms. Dave, you can go to Chick-fil-A for lunch when the show's over if you want. We can't. I'm not saying boo-hoo for us, but most of the guys who are here, I mean, the latest any player got here was July 9th. It's now September 4th. They've been here 2 months. 2 months without seeing their families for the most part, although some are now here. Some were able to start arriving on Monday. A lot of guys chose not to bring their families, especially their kids, because they weren't certain about, is it going to be safe? And also, by the way, yes, we're at Walt Disney World, but if you bring your family here right now for the NBA restart, you can't take the kids to the theme parks. Try explaining that to kids. We're going to Disney, but we're not really going to Disney. We're going to be at a Disney hotel, and you get a pool and a putt-putt course, and that's about it. It isn't easy. It's they don't have the freedoms they're used to having. They don't have their cars. They don't have their whatever they do. They haven't had, and plus this season started 11 months ago.
Right.
Training camp started in September. Now we're in the second round of the playoffs, and it's the following September. everybody wants a break. I get it. Everybody's fried for whatever reason. It's incredibly, no matter what, whether it's what we do, Dave, or what they do, or what a guy driving a bus does, or a guy driving an Uber, or a cook in a restaurant. It doesn't matter. It's just hard for everybody right now. And it's exacerbated here, I think, to a certain point. So yes, tensions were very, very high. And when the Bucks were the team, when George Hill basically led it and said, we're going to be the team because Kenosha is so close to Milwaukee. We're going to be the team that says we're not playing. And people, I think, need to understand the Bucks were willing. It wasn't about not playing. The Bucks were willing to take a loss. They were going to forfeit the game.
Right.
We're going to make the ultimate statement. We're going to throw away a playoff game, which is about as big as you can do in sports. We're going to throw away a playoff game to make our point. And credit to the owners. I think there were 6 or 7 teams that already had voting plans ready to go. And there were a few others that were pursuing having their arenas or their practice facilities be either voter registration sites or early voting sites or balloting sites for the general election. Since the Bucks did what they did, I think 14 more have gotten deals done in the last 9 days or 8 days, whatever it's been. Their impact is proven. The voices were heard. More teams are trying. A couple of teams are not going to be able to get it done. Philadelphia's not going to get a voting deal done. Boston's not going to get a voting deal done. As we sit here right now, and not for lack of trying, it's just they can't do it.
Okay. Miami's
trying. Miami's been trying since long before the Bucks boycotted. I mean, they've been trying to get this done for a while. It sounds like the best hope for Miami is that the AAA will become an early voting site, which would be fantastic.
That's fine. Yeah.
And I think there is depending on, and it's not, I mean, everything is partisan right now, but it shouldn't be. But if you look at it from a partisan perspective, there are definitely some people who would say we'd rather not have people be encouraged to go see the Heat Arena, which, let's face it, Dave, I mean, we do this again. We've been in how many arenas in our life? We've been very lucky to get paid to go to them. People, not everybody can pay to go to a Heat game. Not everybody can afford going to a concert at the AAA. And so it would be a really big deal for some people to be able to say, I was on the floor at American Airlines Arena. I got to see the banners. And I got to exercise my civic duty. It would bring a lot of people out. I think that notion excites some people, and I think that notion petrifies some people because, there are just some people I think that don't want 150 million people in America voting on November 3rd. I get it, and this is not a new thing. It's always been that way. But for NBA teams to get involved, it is obviously rubbing some people the wrong way. But the fact that so many teams have sprung into action and gotten deals done in the last week, it speaks to the power of what players were saying in those couple of days when the league almost stopped.
They should let everybody who votes shoot a layup. Leave the main baskets up. You cast your ballot, and you put your ballot in there. Then you walk in there, shoot a layup. Don't do free throws because they'll be there all day. But give them a chance at layup.
That would probably I don't know. That probably be illegal on some level. I do think it's like, seriously, I thought about this the other day. Somebody asked me, would it be set up with the Heat floor? Would it be set up with the banners? Would it be set up with?
I don't know how you do that.
I don't think you can.
No, I don't think so either. You can do it in the walkways.
I think you have to say, I mean, this isn't about getting people into NBA arenas so they're basketball fans. This is about, let's not forget the bigger issue here. We're in a pandemic. Some of the biggest public buildings you have in a city are your arenas and stadiums. It just makes sense. It just makes physical, social distancing sense to take advantage of these massive facilities. You can have 50 people voting at one time on the floor of the AAA, and none of the other 49 would know that anyone else is there. Whereas, when I went, I voted in, I voted in Miami Lakes where we live, whenever, was it the primary 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, whatever the last election was. There was basically 2 of us in there voting at 11 o'clock in the morning. And I had to wait about 7 or 8 minutes for that one gentleman to be processed. So luckily it was a very small number of people at the polls that day. At the AAA or any other big arena in this country, that wouldn't be a problem. You could go as fast as you have the number of volunteers. because you have the space and social distancing won't be a problem. And let's face it, that is going to be a big deal in November. The way your polling place has been set up for years and years and years, probably won't be able to be set up that way anymore just because of the times that we are in.
Right. That's why I will vote early again. We voted early in the primary on a Sunday and right before they close, too, which is a great time to go in there. It's a lousy time to go to a bakery, but it's a good time to go to a polling place. And we'll probably map out something like that again. All right, I'm going to let you go here. I know you've got to talk to your Keurig. By the way, if that box talks back, it's time for you to go home. I'm just warning you now. But, Tim, as you see this series playing out, Miami win this thing? Yeah. I mean, I realize they have a huge advantage at the moment, but teams have come back before from 0-2.
Sure. And the Bucks are really, 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 really good. That was 7 reallys if you're scoring at home, I think. I mean, they're just this series isn't over. Dan.
And if you are, why are you watching this show?
What was the Charlie?
It was Sports Center.
It was Olbermann, right?
Yeah, it was Olbermann's line.
Olbermann or Patrick, if you're scoring at home or whatever. I don't know. But anyway, it was this team is really good. I mean, they're like 60-20 this year. I mean, they're just, they've got the MVP who's about to become a 2-time MVP. And, Mike Budenholzer is a perennial coach of the year candidate. And Chris Middleton's a max player who's one of the best knockdown shooters when he's going. And, Brook Lopez is, I'd rather have Bam than Brook Lopez, but Brook Lopez is really good at what he does. They've got, George Hill is tough. Eric Bledsoe is super tough. They got guys. This is not it's a credit to Miami that they got the first 2, and it speaks to where the Heat are, and it also speaks to what the potential of this team is, because when you look at this core, it could be together for a while, which is kind of scary.
Sure.
I do think Miami wins the series. I think tonight is going to be, if you watched Raptors Celtics last night, that's what you're going to see tonight.
Okay.
You're going to see, you need Boston outplayed Toronto last night. Boston should have won the game 5 times. You have to knock them out. You have to knock out the team. The Bucks don't have a championship, but they have they have championship potential. The Raptors, of course, have one. But, you got to knock out a champion. And the Heat are going to have to throw the knockout punch tonight. The Bucks aren't just going to fall over. If the Heat lose tonight, they can still win the series, and I would still pick them to. I said Heat in 7 to begin with.
Okay.
The beauty of this bubble, Dave, is why you can pick a lower seeded team in 7. There's no home court.
There's none of that. And the one name we never mentioned yet, and I think he may be the key to the whole thing, is Dragic.
I know. How have we not mentioned Goran?
Well, that's okay, but I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, and I thought, when he's healthy and when he's right, and he's clearly right at the moment.
He's right.
He just does what he does, and that's the key guy. I think they need him to remain healthy to continue their success.
Eric Spoelstra talking him into coming off the bench and saving his body all year. Now, obviously, nobody planned a 4.5-month break between the regular season and the playoffs. No one quite expected that one. But, 3 years ago, Goran Dragic played his best basketball this time of year when he led Slovenia to the European Championship, the greatest sporting achievement in Slovenian history, by far, not even close. He put that team on his back. And that the European Championships, if you've never watched Eurobasket, it's no joke. It's the second best tournament in the world behind the Olympics. I think Eurobasket, top to bottom, is better than the World Cup for basketball, which people don't follow. He's doing the same things now. He's taking what the Bucks give him. You're letting him get to his spots. You're letting him get to that little 10 to 15-foot comfort range that he has. You're so worried about the other shooters. You're worried about Bam that you're not up on him. He's just in such a good mind frame right now. And by the way, Dave, it goes back to what I was saying about how the Heat just seem to be built for this. Goran Dragic, everybody loves their family. I get it. Kind of a standard thing in humanity. I don't know if there's a better family guy in the league than Goran. Like, all he ever talks about are his wife and his kids. That's all he talks about. His wife and his kids went home to Slovenia 2 months ago.
Ooh.
Yeah. He's seeing them. Obviously he wouldn't be seeing them now anyway, but they're not 3 hours away. They're 3 billion miles away. However long. I was never a geography guy, but
that's all right. I'm not even going to put it on Google Maps. It'll take.
There's no direct flights there.
No.
And look at the way he's playing. He's as good as he's been in a really long time. And it's not like somebody actually tweeted the other day that he's Bobby Marks, who's a brilliant cap guy and has a lot of front office knowledge for ESPN. He tweeted the other day that Goran's going to get the biggest one-year contract in world history this summer. Well, he might.
Yeah.
He absolutely might. But the funny thing about Goran being in a contract year is he's not playing for a contract.
Right. I get it. Yeah.
If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. He's fine with it. He's playing for jewelry. He's playing for that ring. He has taken the adversity of, I'm away from my family. I'm away from my house. I'm away from my kids. He loves his lawn. It's a story for another day, but like the lawn at their house there's a whole story behind it. But anyway, he loves being around his lawn. He hasn't seen his lawn, obviously, in 2.5 months. If I'm going to be away from all that, I may as well win the damn thing. That's what he's saying. And he's playing that way. And he's, again, like Jimmy does in his way, Goran sets an example for these young goats, as they call them. If Goran can be 5,000 miles from his wife and kids and still show up every day and be in a great mood and be happy to be here, then so can you, Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson and Bam Adebayo and everybody else.
The funny thing, Tim, about this is you want to win, you want that title, but the more you win, the more you stay in the bubble, the more you have to deal with all of that loneliness longer and longer and longer. It's a really ironic, it's a true test of your heart as an athlete and your desire to win that you could break. You could sit there and go, if we lose, I can go home now. I don't have to deal with it anymore.
No, and 1, 2, 3 Cancun is a thing in here. There's no question. I think that some teams knew that they could, if we're out, we're out. But I think too, it works the other way. Is the longer you go, the Rockets are the only team left now at their hotel. There were 3 team hotels. Now we're down to 2, and the Rockets are the only team left in theirs. That's a huge boost for the Rockets psychologically. They've got their own place. It's like a regular playoff series now. They've got their own hotel.
I hadn't thought of it that way before.
They have. So I mean, but you can see
that's the inside information that you bring.
The population in here is shrinking. So guys know that yes, we're here in day 206 of bubble life. I get it, but every day that you're here, you are closer to getting your fingerprints on Larry. And if that doesn't do it for guys, if that isn't the Wilson volleyball that Tom Hanks and Castaway could hang on to for these guys,
nice.
Maybe a bad analogy because Wilson got away from Tom and his wife married
another guy
for Tom, but at least they found him. Anyway, yes, it's super, super hard, and you might only be like halfway through this, believe it or not. Well, you're probably just past the halfway point now. You could still spend 6 weeks in the bubble if you go to the finals. But if that doesn't excite you, the chance that you're that close to that piece of jewelry in a championship that nobody's ever going to forget, the 2008 championship, who won it? Oh, Celtics or Lakers? It was the Celtics-Lakers final. Who won? Celtics won it.
Celtics.
We have to think about that. We're never going to think about who won the championship in 2020. We're never going to think about it. They're going to remember this one for all time. You're trying to win the championship of championships. I think guys are going to get their second or third or 15th wind here pretty soon when they realize that.
Well, you have attracted quite the crowd. From the bubble itself, Casey Colebrook is watching us.
My man.
So is Randy Webb. Our friend Phil DeMontmollen, who's not in the bubble, but I know you know Phil.
Out tornado.
Harvey Fialkoff. I mean, you brought all the celebrities to the program. So I'm going to let you go on one more thing. Working for the Associated Press, they are the grammatical standard for journalism around the globe. And I always close my noon shows with, is there something in particular about the English language that drives you nuts? Here's a minute or so for you to vent. Is there one thing or an expression that you hear that's like, come on, man, can we please stop this?
Well, I use it. So I'd like to ban it is what it is. That's not, but my biggest thing, I always feel like I feel like I have the talking stick here at the end of a show.
You do.
So this is only going to apply to like journalists. But when we say the Boston Celtics, we say they. When we say the New York Yankees, we say they. When it's plural, we say they. When we say the Miami Heat or the Orlando Magic or the Utah Jazz, it's not a plural, is it? It is. That's my rant. Don't call the Heat a singular. Don't call the Heat an it. Don't call the Magic it. Don't call the Jazz it. Boston is it. Celtics are they. Ergo, Miami is an its city, but the Heat, it's they. So thank you. Please consider the Heat, Magic, and Jazz plural.
No, that's a good one. I had thought about that, actually. That's a great
one. I'm probably violating the AP style book by saying that, but I don't care. I stand by it. And people try to correct me on it. The well actually types who email you and tweet at you that I taught this, and this. By the way, I failed one class in high school, and it was creative writing, and I'm not making that up. I had 47. I got a 47 in creative. Not one grade. That was my average in creative writing.
You've shown them, buddy.
Listen.
Where's that guy? Is that guy in a bubble right now talking to his coffee machine? No, you are.
But will the coffee machine talk back? I will keep you posted on that.
If I get a note in the middle of the night and it's you talking, or worse, if it's the coffee machine, I'll know you've been held hostage. Just blink twice and I'll send for the police.
If my Keurig box follows me on Twitter, then I'm just going to go like, hey, Kool-Aid man, and just run right out the door without opening it. I'm just going to get you out of here.
Clearly, somebody in the audience now needs to come up with the Tim's Keurig Twitter account.
Please don't.
No, it won't be me. I promise it won't be me. Tim, thank you so much. You gave us a lot of time and some awesome information. I know I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking that time. And good luck with everything up there. Stay healthy, and we look forward to reading and seeing you on Twitter what you got for us.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you. And by the way, the clips you put out a couple weeks ago when you were out in Wyoming, I got to get to that. That's a beautiful arena. Like I sat there and watched your son shooting jumpers for like 20 minutes, and I'm like, I gotta get to that arena. That just looks amazing out there. So
they did a good job.
Thanks for having me on. Continued good health to you, and everybody enjoy 5 Nooners a week with Dave LaMont.
All right, yeah, thank you, Tim Reynolds, AP. In the bubble in Orlando. That's going to do it. I think I'll do something Monday because I've got nothing else to do, frankly. Probably I need to just talk about the Miami Hurricanes. I'll see if I can get the Orange Bowl boys lined up next week for you. For Tim Reynolds, I'm Dave LaMont. He took care of the Saving the English Language features. So we're going to sign off. And Heat Game 3 tonight, 6:30 on TNT. Have a wonderful holiday weekend. See you later.